Hello, Black Eagles. Welcome back to our Black Eagles YouTube channel. As promised, I am here to review the book of Atiba Hutchinson, The Beautiful Dream. I got this book on Audible. I've pre-ordered it months ago. I'd just like to disclose on the right side of my face here, you can of course see the cover of the book. I also have the book here, the physical form of the book, the hardcover. I'd just like to disclose this video is in no way sponsored or anything like that by Audible or by Amazon, but I myself am an avid book enthusiast, especially an audiobook enthusiast, and I have over 150 titles on my Audible account. So just to give you some context to me as a book listener, I should say, whether I listen to a lot of books, yes I do. Football books, I listen to autobiographies of football, but I also listen to a lot of other genres of books for sure. Atiba Hutchinson's book, The Beautiful Dream, I got it on the 24th. That was the day it released. Obviously I had it pre-ordered. I also got the physical book last week, as I shared a video on that not too long ago. And, well, you know, obviously I am a Beşiktaş fan. If you're watching this, you are probably a Beşiktaş fan too. Either that or you're an Atiba Hutchinson fan. You're perhaps a Canadian football fan, Canadian soccer fan. And maybe you're on the fence of getting the book. Let me preface with, I highly recommend you buy the book, whether you are an avid reader or not, whether you like to listen to audiobooks or not. I definitely can recommend getting the book, even if it's just to, as a Beşiktaş fan, to show another sign of our love for a player that has served our club for a decade, one of the biggest legends of the club, especially in the last 25 years when my fandom started, my Beşiktaş fandom started. Over the last 25 years, he is definitely one of, if not the biggest legend that I have seen play the first minute to the last. And I think, like me, a lot of you are in the same boat. So get the book. Whether you're gonna read it or not, get it. But I highly recommend you read it or you listen to it. A little secret, you might already know this, Audible actually gives you, if you subscribe to Audible, the first book is free. And there's no commitment as far as I know. So you can actually just get the book for free if you wanted to. But still, even if you did, you'd spend the credit, and that would count towards a sale as far as I know. So even if you aren't super keen on reading, go ahead, create an Audible account and get the book. I highly recommend to you that you do. Now, I predominantly listened to the book on my Audible account. I actually finished it this morning at 5 a.m. I couldn't sleep. I went to bed last night, and I had been listening to the book the day prior. It's now, when I'm recording this, it's the 26th. So I started listening to this not yesterday, but the day before yesterday. So on the 24th. And I had gone through the book on Audible is roughly, let me check. It is, I believe, just shy of 10 hours. So first and foremost, again, if you are somebody who likes to listen to audiobooks, like I'm someone who does, and obviously I'm a subscriber to Audible, I get a monthly credit. That credit allows you to get one book. And I always find if you're gonna get a book on Audible, make sure it's worth it. Make sure it's a long book. Don't get a book of 2-3 hours. A 9-hour book, that is a very nice amount, I think. It is over 9 hours. Like I said, it's in fact 9 hours and 50 minutes is where it clocks in from the first chapter till the last. Now, the fact that I finished this book this morning at roughly 5:15 in the morning, and I had to wake up. It's not like I didn't have anything to do today. The fact that I stayed up that long is simply because I got to the last couple of chapters. And don't get me wrong, from start to finish, it's completely immersive. The book, you immediately get sucked in. The writer Dan Robson, who collaborated on this book with Atiba, they wrote it together. They did a fantastic job, both of them, Dan and Atiba. I don't know exactly how that worked, obviously, but they really did a great job. The reader of the book, actually, that's a little bit on Audible. If you listen to audiobooks, it's very important that whoever narrates the book does a good job. And honestly, other than pronouncing a couple of names really weird, like Helsingborg and Brøndby, I think he pronounced Helsingborg as a Helsingborg or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm mispronouncing it, right? Like, I don't know, but it sounded really weird. I definitely know he mispronounced Trabzonspor because that changed from time to time to Trabzonspor or something. I don't know. But he actually did a good job at pronouncing Beşiktaş, especially for a foreigner, for a Westerner. Other than a couple of weird pronunciations, I thought the narrator did a fantastic job, so I definitely recommend getting the audiobook. I also recommend, of course, getting the physical book. It just depends on what you prefer, right? But given the fact that with audiobooks, whether a book is enjoyable or not is heavily dependable on the narrator, I can definitely say this narrator does a good enough job that it's worth getting the audiobook. He's not perfect, but I think he did a good job. If I were to give him a score on 10, I'd definitely give him an 8. I sometimes have audiobooks of franchises I really enjoy. Like, I'm a bit of a sci-fi nerd. I love the Alien universe, and I love those books. But the last couple of years, there's been a couple of narrators on those books that I just can't get into them. Like, they're I don't know what it is. The way they read it, their voices, I don't know what it is. It just doesn't. I start the book and yeah, it just it doesn't. I just don't enjoy it all that much. But this narrator does a good job. Never took me out of it. I was completely immersed from start to finish. I felt like I was there. My imagination just took me there to Atiba's youth, because that's where the book starts. The book is obviously titled The Beautiful Dream. And at the center of this book, the clue of this book really is the almost perfect ending of his story, where he does get to achieve his dream. Now, obviously, I'm not going to give away the big plot lines of the book, but I mean, obviously, I think it's quite obvious what the beautiful dream is for Atiba. What happened in 2022? At nearly 40 years of age, he finally made it to the pinnacle of football, and he played at a World Cup. That is the beautiful dream, but also, of course, just the entire his entire career, the entire process, the entire getting to it. The it's not so much how do you say it? It's not so much the destination; it's how you get there. That is also, of course, what this book is about. And it starts off about Atiba when he's a young kid, when he's living in Brampton in Canada, when he's growing up. His dad, in the first half of the book or so, plays a pivotal role in shaping him. His brother, his mom, his sister Toya, his brother Halden, of course. Like I said. Like his friends, Alex, who apparently pushed him to write his book. He mentions all of them. He makes it very clear throughout the book how important his friends and family always have been, despite the fact that at a very young age, he took the leap and he went to Europe. There's a lot of things I didn't know in the book. Trial periods he had at Cagliari, at Schalke, And yeah, just how difficult it was for him. I even kind of got the impression that in his early years, he never really even, he barely played for an actual club. I think he did play for a local club in Brampton, but it was like, yeah, it kind of resonated with me. I have a friend also who has been on the podcast in the past, went back when we were just audio, Evran, and he went through a somewhat similar journey. He's from the United States, as you may know, and he went on this quest to make it as a football player. And unfortunately for Evran, he's now 25, but he had a knee injury and all that kind of stuff. Corona happened at a very inopportune moment for him. And that really just put a stick in his wheel. But I recognized a lot of Atiba's story from my friend Evran, who went through a somewhat similar story. It was a struggle. For Atiba less so, I guess, because Atiba, at a very young age, he joined the Canadian youth national team at under 16. So he was already kind of, he was playing at a higher level already. Let's just put it that way. Everyone had to try and find his way up from the bottom, and so did Atiba. Don't get me wrong, but I think when you're playing for an international youth team, even at the time just Canada, that's something that Atiba speaks about throughout his book as well. The frustration he had with the disrespect that the Canadian football, Canadian soccer got throughout his 20-year plus career, especially in the first 15 or so years of his career. It's of course improved tremendously over the last couple of years with the immersion of new stars like Jonathan David and Davies, and even Kyle Larin, our former player, and Buchanan, and of course at the helm that was a stalwart, experienced midfielder, Atiba Hutchinson, who led his nation to the first World Cup since 1986. And only their second World Cup in history. And of course, Canada will be at the next World Cup because they're co-organizers with the USA. But obviously that's in 2026, and Atiba would have been 43 already. So he already went very long for an outfield player. I really enjoyed it. The book, like I said, it sucked me in. I felt like I was there. I felt like Dan, who I guess was the ghostwriter, and I assume wrote most of it, did a fantastic job at conveying the emotions and the story, and it really felt like Atiba was telling it. The early days, with his father being a very instrumental figure in that, then his struggles to go abroad, his first real contract in Sweden for Östers IF, and then Helsingborg after, and then his big move to Copenhagen, and his fantastic 4-year period at Copenhagen, meeting his wife, his future wife, Sarah. Obviously, we as Beşiktaş fans, we know Noah, we know Nava, we know Io, we know even Lily Rose. We know his kids from social media, and especially Noah, because he's been so on the forefront. And even participated in some Beşiktaş merchandising campaigns. And we've in a way kind of seen those kids grow up in front of our eyes. And but we never really got to meet Sarah, and that's because Sarah is a private person. And I found it very interesting hearing her story to an extent, and her history. And of course, it was great to hear about Toya as well, who a lot of us have gotten to know on social media over the past decade, and she's a wonderful person as well. And it was really fun getting to know those aspects. I was shocked in the beginning of the book when it was revealed that Atiba was this complete different person than I think almost all of us imagine him to be. I think when we think of Atiba Hutchinson, we think of a model professional, somebody who is respected and loved by all, Galatasaray, Fenerbahce fans alike, the referees, somebody who is super level-headed and just the ultimate professional. And then you hear growing up, he was this fiery, ultra competitive, sore loser of a kid almost. I couldn't believe it. He had a massively short fuse apparently, and I suppose that he got kind of rid of that over the years. But I thought I was listening to a story about somebody else. And also just the type of player he was in his early years. He started off his career as a striker, really. Well, his career, in the youth, at a young age, he was a striker. Even coming up a little bit more, he played a lot as an offensive midfielder. And do you remember in 2020, 2021, when we won the league, he scored a lot of goals, and I think like 6 goals or something. But for Atiba, that was a lot. And he gave a bunch of assists as well. He had his most productive season in his career at the age of, 37, 38? And I think we were all like, what is this? Suddenly Atiba started scoring and assisting, and he got some goals and assists every season. And as I learned from this book, and I guess I must have seen it at some point on Transfermarkt or something, but in his time in Copenhagen, he had a couple of good prolific seasons as well. And earlier on in his career, he scored a lot of goals. And I think just at Beşiktaş, he had a lot of years where I guess he played more as a holding midfielder before he really became more of a box-to-box later on, a role that throughout his career he played a lot more. But yeah, it's just some of these stories, it really shows you as a fan how little we really know about these guys. And it's fantastic that Atiba wrote this book to give us some insights on what he's really like. And a lot of it, you recognize it, of course, especially the later chapters when he starts his career in Beşiktaş. You do recognize a lot of it. But there is a lot of surprises. I 100% recommend you read this book. I think as a Beşiktaş fan, you owe it to yourself, and also you kind of owe it to Atiba to read this book. Buy it. It's not expensive. It's like 20 euros or something on Amazon. I'll put a bunch of links in the show notes for Amazon and for Audible, so you can actually go and get it. You just have to click those links. But I highly recommend you get this book. You should get this book. You have to get this book. It's really a great book. The last couple of chapters, I got really emotional when he was telling, first and foremost, when he was kind of retelling the tumultuous period that was 2015, 2016, which I had forgotten all these kind of things, but like the terrorist attacks throughout Turkey, the coup, of course, and then more terrorist attacks, and then even the terrorist attacks. He even referred to the terrorist attacks in Belgium and in the rest of Europe. I lived in Antwerp at the time, and I remember, I lived in the center of Antwerp, and there were constantly military patrols out on the streets. It was really weird and eerie. And we moved out of the city like a year and a half after that. When my son Aiden, when he turned 2.5 and started going to school, we actually moved out to the countryside where we live now. But that just kind of took me back, and that feels like a period in life that I have almost forgotten and never really gave it a second thought, especially the whole situation in Turkey at the time, how tumultuous it was with those terrorist attacks, the attack near the stadium, and how much of an impact that really must have had on the players who played for us, but also Atiba. And as you remember, Solsa forced a move back then. I remember thinking at the time, oh, he just wants to go to Milan. This is just an excuse to get out, to go to get that move to Milan. And, obviously Mario Gomez didn't come back. And I just remember thinking at the time, I was like, oh, such a shame. I mean, this will all clear up, and almost like not taking it super serious. Even though lots of people got killed, lots of people got hurt, and you're just so kind of removed from that situation. If you're not in the thick of it, it just feels surreal. And I feel like I took it more serious listening to the book than I did back then. And that's kind of an eerie thought. And hearing, of course, how Atiba and Sarah and their newly born kid Noah, and with their second kid Nava on the way at the time, it's a wonder that they stuck around, really. I mean, obviously they fell in love with Turkey, with Istanbul. That's why they still live there to this day, 10 years on, or over 10 years after he first signed his contract back in 2013. I learned a lot of stuff. I also learned about knee injuries that he apparently, multiple knee surgeries he had during his time at PSV. I wasn't aware of that. I don't know. It just stuff I never really knew. I always thought of Atiba as somebody who was throughout his career predominantly super healthy. Of course, he had some struggles towards the end of his career with us, but I figured, that's just the age catching up, and he's been pretty lucky throughout his career. But then I didn't know about this tough period in his career at PSV where he missed, where he had 3 knee surgeries in 18 months, which was really difficult for him. Where he was almost thinking of, okay, when he signed with Beşiktaş in 2013, he was thinking, this is my last contract. Little did he know, right? It would indeed be his last club, but not his last contract. And just the ending of the book, his ending at Beşiktaş, his ending with the Canadian national team, him finally achieving his beautiful dream of playing at a World Cup. I was listening to this laying in bed, and just the end of it, I was teared up for like the last 30-45 minutes of the book. I was very emotional. Like I said, it sucked you in. And like I said, I have over 150 titles on Audible. Some books, like my favorite books, are the ones that hit you, that put a pit in your stomach, that touch you emotionally. And this book did that. And I think that is the biggest endorsement I can give this book, is that it touched me on an emotional level. I think a really good book does that. An autobiography is hit and miss sometimes. I have a couple of autobiographies that I really, really love. Like, for example, Arnold Schwarzenegger his first autobiography I thought was a really well-written book, a really good one. But this one is up there. This is, right now, I almost feel sorry that I almost rushed through it. I listened to this book in 2 days. So over the last 48 hours, I've listened to 10 hours of Atiba's book. So, I don't know what I did in the excess 38 hours, but 10 of those 48 hours were listening to Atiba's book. Highly recommended. Go to Amazon, your local Amazon, whether that's .com, .co.uk, .de. Go to Amazon, order the physical copy, or go to Audible, start your Audible subscription, get your first book for free, and let it be this one. Highly recommended. I think if you're a Beşiktaş fan, if you're a Canadian men's soccer team fan, you owe it to yourself and you owe it to a legend of your club or your country or both to have read this book. Thank you for watching this episode of The Black Eagles on YouTube. We'll be back, of course, later tomorrow with our match report of the Ajax Beşiktaş game in the Europa League. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And let me know in the comments if you've already gotten the book or if you're planning on getting it. And if you already got it, let me know in the comments what you thought of this book. Did you like it as much as I did? Would you recommend it to your friends and family who are perhaps also Beşiktaş fans or Canadian football fans? Let me know. Just wanted to say, in the small chance that Atiba is watching this or any of his friends and family are watching this, thank you very much, Atiba, for writing this book. Dan, if you're by any chance watching this, thank you very much for doing a fantastic job with this book. Atiba's friend Alex, his brother, his sister, his mom, his dad, Sarah, all of them, everyone who helped him along in this process to writing this book. Thank you for giving us a glimpse of one of our heroes, the lives of one of our heroes. It was really a pleasure reading this book. And I hope in the future to have the opportunity to read more of these types of books from former Beşiktaş players, because it really it lifted everything up to another level. Bye bye. Thanks.